Welcome to Riverside TV. The Riverside School Board is home to more than 9,500 students registered in elementary, secondary, and adult education and vocational training programs. Our 19 elementary schools, 5 high schools, and adult education and vocational training center serve the residents over 98 municipalities. And this is our show. Riverside Television is a half-hour show highlighting the events and activities that take place at schools throughout the Riverside School Board. On today's show, our guests will be representatives from Access, Riverside School Board's Adult Education and Career Training Center.
Welcome to Riverside TV. I'm Juan Quintana. I'm the Project Development Officer of the Access Career Training Center, and today I'm being joined by Lucie, who is the Director of Adult Education and Vocational Training Services of Riverside School Board. Hi Lucie, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Excellent. So Lucie, you're the Director of Adult Education and Vocational Training Services?
Yes, I am.
And why don't you tell us a little bit about Access? What is Access?
Access gives an opportunity for adult students to come back to the educational system, either to continue their general education or to take a vocational training program.
What vocational? What is that? Are those trades? Is that?
They're trades. Yes, they're trades. Most of them are hands-on trades. So we're looking in secretarial work, accounting work, assistant nursing, these type of trades.
So other than those three, what other vocational programs do we have at Access that we can offer our population?
We have in the health sector, as I said before, in the health sector we have the assistant nurse, but we also have home care and attendant, and we have a program called hygiene and sanitation as well, and the pharmacy program. So these are the programs that we have the most in the health sector. We do also have commerce, which will include the secretarial, accounting, sales, professional sales, and studying a business. We also have in the construction, bricklaying. So we have a few programs, and we have new ones coming in the new year.
How many centers do you have at Access?
We have 3 centers. At the moment, only 2 of those centers offer vocational training programs, but the 3 centers offer continuing education programs.
And you have a brand new center in St. Hubert. Is Royal Oak, how did that come about?
Well, Royal Oak was a project of 2 years to try to get our bricklayers to come and join us. The bricklayers program started in a different center. And this year we were lucky enough to have the center built, and the bricklayers are now with us. We have right now 2 cohorts, which means 2 courses of students in the bricklaying at the moment. So.
You've been obviously very busy, not only with Royal Oak and the building, but you've also acquired new cards for new vocational programs.
Yes, as of July 1st, we will be offering 3 new vocational programs. One that will complement our secretarial program, which is medical secretary, and will also go well with all the health sector. We have computer support, who will be given in St. Hubert in the Royal Oak building. And we'll have auto mechanic. Auto mechanic at the moment, we're not sure where it will be given. We are still looking for a garage to give that cohort, but hopefully very close by our other centers as well.
You also have a new vocational program you'll be giving in collaboration with another school board. Do you want to talk to us a little about that?
Last year, we lobbied the ministry to get the program a stationary machine mechanic. It is a program that not many centers offer in the province. We requested the program with la Commission Scolaire des Patriotes. So we are giving, both of us received the authorization to give that program as of July 1st, 2015. The program will be given in the center of des Patriotes, which is situated in Saint Julie. We're very excited about that one. We know there's a big demand in employment in that program. So something to look forward to.
Oh, wonderful. And even before Access obtained these last vocational diplomas, the growth of the center has been consistent. What do you attribute that growth and that popularity to?
I think that as a whole, I think that vocational training is becoming more and more known in the province. There is also more publicity made on vocational training. We know that the employers are looking for people that are trained with diplomas, not just a high school diploma, but a trade diploma. So in a sense, we are giving the community what the community is requesting. We also do quite a bit of publicity through our website, through our Facebook, through newspaper. We attend many fairs. We're around, and I think that Access is becoming more and more known as a place to be to learn your trade.
And yeah, it's a matter of fact that it's not only for the youth, because we also are, people that are in a second career come back to Access, people that want to learn French. Also, there's a program with seniors that has been taken off lately about taking them away from isolation. What is that like?
These programs where we welcome the senior citizen into the adult education system are a social integration program that we call them. The social integration program are courses that we offer for people who feel like they need to reintegrate the society, what society it might be. For the senior citizen, for example, it might be learning to use the computer, learning to use technology or the iPad, to help them go to the bank when they need to use the bank machine, to help them do maybe their grocery online. It could be also French as a second language, where our senior citizens who come to Access are mostly English first language. So when they come to our center, they get to practice their second language, which is French, and help them with their daily task. We also offer healthy living as well with them, and they get to cook and prepare little meals for themselves. So it's very interesting.
Along the umbrella, under the umbrella of social integration programs, we also have social professional integration programs that help immigrants integrate the job force?
Yes, it could be either immigration population, where those students would have difficulty reintegrating the society, but through their work. So an ISP would be a program where students would come not just for one course, but a series of courses, and one of the courses being an integration into the workforce. So it's to help any population reintegrating the market. So it could be the work market. So it could be also a population who could be limited in his or her access to the work market.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Lucie. I guess we're going to visit the website, www.access.rsb.qc.ca, if we need more information. Or we can always call the center, right?
Exactly.
Excellent. So we hope you can join us at Access, where with 3 centers we can offer you a promising career for you or maybe a member of your family. Visit our website again, www.access.rsb.qc.ca, or call the center at 450-676-1843. And come and join us for a promising career. Thank you very much.
Canadian author and poet Robert Morrison visited Heritage Regional High School recently. Robert Morrison is no stranger to Heritage Regional High School. He offers students a glimpse into the world of poetry and memoir. Mr. Morrison is a former educator, teacher, consultant, and principal who draws from his personal and school experiences to share with his audience. There is no doubt that students identify with many of his themes. Mr. Morrison both entertains and delivers his message with a theatrical flair, impacting his audience. His first memoir, To Pause and Flutter By, is a collection of his experiences both as a student and teacher, and it continues to be a favorite. His latest collection of poetry is entitled My Lady, My Lake. As Mr. Morrison tells students, the narrative allows the writer to distance himself from the subject, however, the poet's feelings are at the forefront, full of emotion. Students in Secondary 3, 4, and 5 will long remember his stories. Robert Morrison lives in Montreal and makes a point of traveling to all parts of the world. He shares his love of language with students. As students commented, he is an inspiration.
Hello, my name is Mary Eva, and we're here today with Quebec poet, Robert Morrison. Robert Morrison is a former principal out on the West Island, a teacher, educator, language arts consultant, and all-round great poet. And he writes an awful lot of memoirs that students absolutely love. So we're here today with Robert. Thank you so much for being here and addressing our students here at Heritage.
It's been a great morning. I really enjoyed working with them and talking with them and reading, and it's been great.
Yeah, we had our very first morning session where Secondary 4 and Secondary 3 students, and then later on this morning we had all the Secondary 5 groups, as well as a creative writing class. And I think all students have left with a great amount of knowledge and absolute love for your poetry.
Thank you.
And especially your memoirs. In your To Pause and Flutter By, which is the very first published book of memoirs, that's one of the things that the students enjoyed reading, and they questioned your use of names and if these people were actually their real names, or did you fictionalize the characters, and how much is true and how much is not? How much can you call a memoir and how much can you call fiction?
It is, the whole definition of memoir is that it's accurate, it's a memory. It's colored by my memory, but my attempt was to capture those events as they happened and with the people that were present. And in that story, Hair Lip, that I read, I have actually shown that story to the two other characters that share it with me, and the memories match. They remember details that I had forgotten, and I remember details that they went, oh yes, we'd forgotten that. But certainly the gist of it was there as a shared memory among us. So in memoir, you have to tell the truth. I did change the names of some of the characters. If the story was, for example, a tribute to a teacher, I used that teacher's real name.
Yes.
So there's a story in there about Ian Trasler, my physics teacher, who was a magnificent teacher. I used his name. Alfred McCurgo, the gentleman who changed the direction of my life from business to education. Of course, I mentioned his name and others throughout. If the story or the memoir is less of a tribute, then I change the name, because my intention was never to hurt anyone, but rather to say the intention of the book was to say first to student teachers and then to teachers in general that you already have a profound influence on kids.
Yeah.
And a simple comment that is gone in 5 seconds may stay with a kid for 50 years, as in the kindergarten story. You know, Miss Powell had no intention of creating a 50-year memory.
No, that's true.
You know, and yet it was just that simple, not taking that moment to, what if he is telling the truth? That wounded me for so long.
It's
you know.
amazing. Some of the students, well, one of the students had a question, and she was wondering, were you keeping a journal from a very young age? And if not, how do you recall these memories? I mean, obviously we have faulty memories to an extent.
Yeah, and it was an excellent question. And I think I wish I had been keeping a journal, but I had not. But my mother helped out. Everything that from my childhood was in a trunk, so I was able to go through that and fish out composition books from grade 4 and 5 and 6 and go through what I was writing then, and that sparked
The ultimate
memories.
hoarder at this point.
Yes. And I kept a journal while I was writing. And what would happen is I was writing one memoir, the event would suddenly trigger more memories. Oh, and I'd very quickly jot down and in very messy form ideas and memories that were rediscovered. And actually the book, interestingly enough, was a process of rediscovering my childhood. and rediscovering things that had passed to the back of the data bank, so to speak, and bringing it forward.
You mentioned also, and again, one of the students was interested in the value of writing memoir is also a bit of a cathartic. There's always a learning process in any kind of writing. Probably more so in memoir.
And poetry.
And poetry, yes, obviously in poetry. And you did mention that in poetry you're out there.
Yeah.
You know, whereas here you kind of
Here's
sort
my
of step
juggler.
back. That's right, you can step back.
Yeah.
How would you comment on that? Like the whole idea of putting yourself out there, using this as a learning curve to an extent.
It's, first of all, writing is scary. I was just sharing that with, talking to one young lady just before lunch, and how it's an act that's frightening. You know, there's first of all the famous terror of the blank page. You know, I'm blocked. What am I going to write today? And then there's the fear of how much of myself have I exposed. And then there's also the fear of failure, because no matter how rich in your head this story is, you never get it all into the text. It's an act of failure.
Yeah, and you also mentioned that once it's out there, it's no longer yours.
Yep.
It's for the public, and they can take what they want from it.
And react to it in any way they so choose. The analogy I use is a graphic painter paints a painting and sells it. It's gone. It belongs to somebody else who can resell it or do whatever they want. And the same thing when you sell to a publisher. You know, they are going to bring in editors and they're going to reshape it, and you're going to have to struggle with them as an artist. And it's a very difficult, combative almost situation. Other times it works well. The editors come up with great ideas, and you go, "Wow, yeah, I'll pursue that." You know.
Yeah, and you had mentioned also the title "To Pause and Flutter By" was not the original title; it was Chalk Dust.
Nope, it was Chalk Dust, and the editor chose a quote. That's why it's in quotes, from a poem that a student wrote for me in my very first class in grade 8. To pause and flutter by, and I'm in a bit of a quandary right now because we're going into our second printing, and I have opportunity to make some minor changes, and by a week Friday, I have to decide whether to go back to Chalk Dust or leave it that way.
Well, you didn't get very much of a reaction here when you asked. You had half the bodies saying Chalk Dust, the other half saying, "Oh, I like that one. It's so existentialist to an extent."
Exactly, and they presented very, very strong arguments. You know?
So you still have a dilemma to think
I still
about.
have a dilemma on that one.
But your second poetry book is My Lady, My Lake, and I really like the idea of the Sphinx. You're also well-rounded traveler, quite a bit, you know. And in this particular book, all the poems are really great, but this one in particular is My Father's Wall. And I'm just going to read the first stanza, and perhaps you can put it a little bit more into perspective. The first headline is Daughters. But you write, I constructed this wall, my legacy, each stone set in silent mortar. This obviously has quite an effect on you.
It was a difficult poem to write. It was also a difficult poem to share with them, because my career really was very captivating. It took all my time. So I was working evenings, I was working weekends. During the day as a high school principal, you know, I'd be wandering the school, dealing with the problems that were occurring, dealing with, I called people. People came first.
Yes.
But then the school board was always after me for all that paperwork, you know, so that was the weekends. I would go in on the weekend. My secretary hated Mondays because it would just be piled up in her office, you know, that had to be followed up on. And what I missed out on were the teenage years with my daughters, doing the things that a father should do and would love to do with his daughters. And so that poem tries to capture my regret and express it to them.
Have you shared it with your daughter?
Oh yes, absolutely. Even before it was published, it was I guess my way of reaching through, you know. because the end of the poem is about smashing the wall, you know. And happily we have, you know, with grandchildren and,
That's true.
and what have you, we have.
Yeah, I wanted to also mention, you mentioned Hair Lip, and besides Tripping the Truck, which is an absolute hit since 2007, I think that you were here, in Hair Lip, this is the story of a boy who has the split lip, and one of the students asked, you know, like, what exactly was the lesson you learned? And I'm not sure whether you had told the students this or you were talking to me about it earlier, but you mentioned that as an educator, you learned to protect the dignity of the individual.
Oh yeah, I think I mentioned it to the first group, but that was mostly in Tripping Trucks. That was a lesson I took away from Tripping Trucks. That first of all, not to bully, but you know, we didn't even see ourselves as bullying that young fella. What I really took away is don't ever take anybody's dignity away from them. You know, that's devastating.
Do you have a favorite? Favorite poem, maybe?
Favorite poem, I think, is Ashes. I buried my father and wrote that poem that night. And unlike most poetry, which has to be fought through and rewritten and revised, that came out almost word for word as published. There were some changes I made sort of in the weeks leading up to printing, but they were very minor. It just came.
I think when you mentioned this, you mentioned to students that each one of them has experienced a death of some sort, and so it resonates with them. Would you like to read it?
Sure. It's called Ashes. Today, for the first time, I was able to imagine the world without my presence in it. I buried my father's ashes, stood at an open grave, enduring the words of consecration. I caressed the cold marble urn with my thumbs, as if I were still at his bedside, stroking his forehead, knelt and placed the urn in stark loam, inhaled of its must-sweet scent. A rich red poppy followed, veteran pilot. A final pat on the lid, stood, ceremony concluded. We drove from the gravesite, a yellow front loader growling discreetly. The grave would be filled long before we reached the solace of home. We quit the quiet of cemetery, thrust into the traffic of boulevard. The world's diurnal hive of activity exploded. And today, for the first time, I was able to experience the absence of my father's presence in it.
Thank you so much. I think you're a great inspiration to many, many people here, including our teachers. I think we as well have learned quite a lot, and I thank you so much. I think our students here at Heritage are very fortunate to have you here. But I do have one last question.
Sure.
What advice to aspiring writers, because we do have quite a few here in our school, and I know some of them were asking you how to get published. But
First of all, write. Second of all, meet and connect with other people who are writing. Writing is a solitary, very solitary event, and you need to get with other people to share ideas, to feel validated. One young lady said, "How do you know, when your work is good enough to publish?" Sometimes there's 2 or 3 poems in there I wish weren't in there. I wish weren't published. But other writers give you that objective feedback. They give you the reaction. And then third of all, find ways to print, find ways to publish, find ways to get out there. That validates you. Am I a writer? You're a writer because you write, but also because you publish.
Robert Morrison, thank you so much, and we look forward to further visits.
Oh, anytime. My delight.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our new segment, RSB's Got Talent, showcases some of the great musicians and singers throughout schools at the Riverside School Board. Here's St. John's School.
La chorale de Saint John's School à Saint-Jean-sur-Richelieu présente la chanson La mère et l'enfant.
Tu es la mère, je suis l'enfant, aucun lien n'est plus sage.
Je suis le sort à l'océan, je suis ton seul rivage.
Tu me recouvres à chaque instant de tes vagues de passion, le demeure des sentiments et d'affection. Écrit dans le sable à la surface. Écrit dans le sable à la surface.